Welcome to Speedcubing 101. I am Cube Mom, and this is episode 12. This episode is publishing right at Halloween this year, 2024, and I know some of us don't celebrate Halloween. My cuber enjoys it a lot. We still tell him the story of when we were at a haunted house, and he was 2, and so enthralled and engrossed with it all that he just kept on walking in front of us, not looking back to check to make sure we are with him, that we're still with him. Last year, he was a 3x3, and this year he is updating his 3x3. So I guess it matches real life, right? Wherever you are and whatever you are up to, I hope you are doing well and having fun. Today's episode is an interview with Yulee Okazaki. And today's episode, whether you are listening from a community that has many delegates or no delegates, you'll hear nuggets that you can apply to your cubing community from what Yulee shares. If you've ever seen a competition organized by the Hawaiian Cubing Community, that is Yulee and 2 other moms. We had a lovely chat, and I should mention in this audio, you may hear some echo or some delays, and that's because there was some echo that we couldn't get around, and there were some delays during our conversation, but enjoy, and I will see you on the other side. Welcome to Speedcubing 101. Today we are in for a treat. We have Aloha, Yulee from the Hawaiian Cubing Community.
Aloha. Thanks for having me.
Now, we've been chatting, and you have a cuber, and you've also done a lot for helping people, parents, in the Hawaiian community basically go through Speedcubing 101 and get on board with what's happening, how to do things, how things run. But let's go back first. How did you get started in this world of cubing?
We got started probably in 2022. I think my son had discovered cubing from some friends in school, and they started bringing their cubes to school. They started cubing at recess, and soon they had hordes of kids just around them, helping them to scramble, helping them to cheer them on for their PRs and or PBs and things like that. I didn't solve cubes, so then I didn't know how to help him. I looked for some kind of meetup or some kind of class or anybody that could coach him because I didn't know anything about cubing. I ended up seeing a news story about the first Speedcubing competition in Hawaii. It was in, I think, 2017. And I reached out to one of the kids I saw in the newscast, and I think he responded to me and he said that he was no longer on island. He was in college somewhere. And he said there are still cubers in Hawaii, but he told me we're not that organized. When I heard that, then I took it upon myself to contact a couple of friends. I said, they just need some organizations. We're moms, we can organize. So we took the initiative and just put together a meetup of people that we knew. And I think I posted on my Facebook page, which apparently is for older people. Yes. My kids said nobody uses that anymore.
No, they don't go near it. Their parents do. And grandparents. They don't
right.
Go near it.
Right. Yeah. So that a couple other friends caught on and they came to this meetup, and from there, just the kids enjoyed it so much. We just kept doing it. I think that's where we started.
Your cubers at school, discovers cubes, learned through those friends at school?
That's where he learned initially.
Okay. And then you try to figure out what's this competition world when you saw the article about the 2017 competition. Was able to locate one of the cubers that was featured in this article? Kindly responded and said, I'm not in Hawaii at the moment, and things are not that organized. And you went, wait a minute, I could get a couple friends together and we could get organized here in Hawaii.
We thought initially just organizing meetups, just so that the kids could practice together, talk about cubing, be able to just share that interest, have a common interest. It wasn't till I asked my cuber this, and I don't even know the timeline, but it wasn't till we just Googled it, and there happened to be a competition coming to Hawaii shortly after
Okay.
that. And so we said, get all these kids prepared. We have so much time, so that we
Yeah.
scheduled monthly
You sound a
meetings,
little
and
competitive,
we
like
all
training camp. Let's go.
exactly.
That's okay.
It's a little bit like that. So I told them we're calling it a scrimmage. We're going to practice. We're going to get everybody ready. We're going to learn how to judge. We're going to learn how to compete.
So
And,
most of this group at the time had not competed yet. They hadn't entered their first competition.
They had not. Yeah, they just were doing it for fun, and then watching a lot of YouTube videos.
So where are you in Hawaii, and where was this competition?
I'm in Honolulu, and the competition was in Waikiki at one of the hotels. And that's where they had their first competition. We met the delegates. After the kids competed, they wanted more of it. They caught the bug and they wanted more competitions. It wasn't something that happens regularly in Hawaii. And this was coming off COVID, so that there actually wasn't a lot of social activity at all. So that we talked to them and we said, this hotel is really expensive and the parking is outrageous. Are a local, they're not going to come here.
Yeah.
I said, locals aren't going to pay $20 for parking. So I said, if we can help out in some way, I said, we can call around and find a cheaper venue, find a place that can lower the registration fees and make it more accessible for people. The parents were all willing to help.
That's what you did?
And that's what we did. So we had a list of places. I think we called at least 60 locations.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me more. I need whatever tips you have.
So I recommend a spreadsheet, because I think there were 3 of us just calling everybody and just trying to see what the rates were, seeing what insurance requirements were, if they would have tables, chairs. For us, air conditioning.
Yes, of course.
Air conditioning is important.
Yeah.
And good lighting, according to the delegates. We need really, really good lighting.
Okay.
So we just called around, kept
Can you
a
tell
list,
me though, like,
and then we
what
asked.
type of locations were you calling? Because I'm in that boat right now.
Our delegates, we just asked them size-wise what square footage you need, about how many competitors do we expect to come, and price range. We said, about what price range are we looking at? We looked at schools mostly, because I think that's where we can get the cheapest rate, is through some of the schools. The first one that we helped to organize was through the university. The university had a ballroom, and they were actually able to set up the room. But schools, I think we called schools, some of the district parks, but it's harder because you'd have to bring in tables and chairs and set everything up. It seems like schools were the easiest.
And are you saying college level schools?
No, elementary schools. A lot of time we called all the elementary schools. We called ballrooms, meeting rooms. Those were way out of the price range. We even tried to get creative, where anybody that we knew, we're going through all the connections that we had, anybody with membership anywhere, if we could get. So just trying to stay within those confines of the restraints that they gave us, and just seeing what we could find that would work out. So that now we actually meet at an elementary school for the big competitions. And then we also have side events. And so we use a lot of the public libraries. They have meeting rooms that are a lot cheaper for the small events. So we have for the, what they call PBQ, or Please Be Quiet, like the smaller, it'll be blind competitions, FMC, sometimes like Mega Minx and those type of puzzles will be on a smaller scale. And then the bigger competition is the regular 2x2 to about 4x4.
So is your cuber in all of these events?
He's starting to be, so that he started off with just the 2x2, 3x3, and Pyraminx. And now that he's met all these other cubers, he wants to be an all-rounder. So he's starting to learn all the other events, and even blind. And I think some of the kids have ventured into FMC. So that our population tends to be pretty young, so that the kids were sticking to 2x2, 3x3, Pyraminx initially. But after they've seen some of the more seasoned cubers, they're starting to want to try those. And so each competition, we see the kids kind of branch out and try FMC for their first time, or try clock for their first time. And some of them are trying blindfolded solves for the first time. And they're doing really well. We're really proud of them. That the kids are all learning.
Mine is starting to talk about competing in blind. I'm like, really? That's catching the bug. Okay, right. So when you have your competitions, how many competitors, what percentage roughly, or brand new, first time?
I think the first one that the delegates came to, I think we had I think it was about 80 competitors, which was a lot for Hawaii. And I think they said we had about 60 new competitors. And they said that was the largest density of new cubers. 6-0 for that one that we went to, but we happened to bring a whole bunch of new competitors too. But since then, it hasn't been that big a number. We still get new ones just because we do a lot of outreach and we're trying to just find the cubers. We're spread out on multiple islands so that we're trying to do more outreach and try to use a net and catch all the cubers that are out there. So we've done several media things. We've done community service. We try to get out in the community and just let people know about cubing.
You've given me so much. How many delegates do you have in Hawaii?
We have one, and he doesn't live here. He lives in California.
So you have none, Yulee.
So we count him as our
him.
Kind of Hanai or Calabash. We adopted him as our own, so he's part of our ohana, our family. He lives in California. He's training some other delegates. He likes to travel, so that he flies out here. I think our schedule right now is about 3 times a year that he comes out here, and we do a comp weekend, so that we do like a meetup on Friday so that the cubers can meet the delegates, ask questions about if it's their first time competing. So we'll meet up for about 2 hours on Friday just to get the nerves out. And Saturday will be the regular competition, all-day competition. Sunday's a shorter, more casual for those side events.
And is the Friday meetup at the same venue as the competition?
No, there's a shopping mall that allows us to meet there. It's a family-oriented shopping mall, so that it sets up tables for us.
For free?
We can just meet there for free. So we worked out a relationship and an agreement with them that I think we had our first meetup there, and they were really impressed with the kids, that the kids were, they just liked seeing all the cubing and how everybody was excited. And it just brought a lot of energy to them all. And, they visit the shops and the restaurants and things like that.
So you're saying there's 3 comps a year. Your delegate flies out for them.
So it's 3 comps a year, but it's actually 2 comps in that weekend. So we have 6 competitions, but they're just packed into them. And so we do the legwork. So we actually talk to the vendor. Usually it's a school, so we fill out the forms, talk to the vendor. A lot of them still are on paper, so we drop off a check. And we get reimbursed for those things, but we handle all of those. And then for the schools, they have cafeteria tables, and they don't have the folding tables and the folding chairs. A lot of us just gather our tables together, like for camping, for picnics and things. And we come in early and we set up the tables, and I'm usually the one who holds, I don't know if the scrambling.
Yeah, the folding.
They're just a trifold.
It's your science fair project board.
It's stored at my house. So I have the cube covers, we have the trifold boards, and my job to bring all that.
Okay, so you're the storage for the Hawaiian competitions. So how many meetups are you doing, and how are you advertising them?
We try to do 1 meetup a month, just because between our 3 families, the kids have other activities and we have other kids. And so that's what we can arrange is about once a month that we'll do some sort of meetup. We always tell people wherever we can get a free place to meet up, that's where we're going to meet up. And so that, we just ask around, and we usually find somebody who will offer us a place for free. Just to meet for a couple hours. So we do that about once a month. And then this year especially, we've been asked to do more community events.
Tell me more about that.
The community events are usually just so we put up a booth to tell people more about Speedcubing. So we tailor it to whatever event we're going to. So it's usually STEM conferences. Sometimes I think a respite care nonprofit has asked us to go for like respite night, where the siblings come in of kids with serious illness. And so that will help out with the respite night and do some cubing and hand out free cubes. And Boy Scouts have asked us to do like a day camp, and we'll help out and set up a booth and do that. I think we're doing another couple more just in the community. They have a craft fair or something. They'll ask us to set up a community booth so that we can tell more kids about it. So that at the event, we will do speed cubing demonstrations where we'll ask the cubers to come in, and we have timers and we have a display. We either run through little games, like we try to run through like a relay or a team blind or something that's fun for people to watch. We have a Rubik's mosaic, so that we'll try to create a mosaic and put that together. We found out it's better if we do it ahead of time than trying to do it on site, just because not everybody can solve it, but our cubers will put it together on site if we have to. And then we've done paper make and takes. It's this kind of origami type Rubik's Cube, and so that people can take a Rubik's
Made
Cube
out of origami?
home with them. Out of paper. It's not really a cube. It's 3 pieces. It's like a puzzle, but it looks like a Rubik's Cube, and so that it's really easy to assemble on the spot. So that we'll hand out make and takes. And my family, we 3D print. So we actually 3D printed a robot that can solve a Rubik's Cube, so that we'll, at some place, if it's a STEM competition, we'll bring the robot and demonstrate the robot solving cubes, and that usually fascinates people.
Yes. I think Lego has one because my son competed against it, and my son was faster.
Lego has one. You can get one through like GAN. GAN has it, but we built one that's 3D printed and that uses a camera to take pictures of the cube, and then it's a cute looking robot. Has like arms and legs.
Definitely will get attention.
And so that, luckily my husband understands all the circuits and things, because it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears getting that thing to get to work.
Okay, then you definitely have to send me a photo, and I'll put it on the Instagram, because that sounds incredible.
Okay. But the person who created it, he actually was available to help. So we would just email him, and anything we came across and had trouble with, he actually helped us out so we could get it running in time for one of the demonstrations. But I think that's about it. We try to mix up the activities just in case people see us more than once.
You're making us, I don't know, maybe other parents are going to feel like such chumps now, because look at, you only started 2 years ago, and look at all that you've done. Like, wow.
I think some of it, we started off like a couple moms that we used to run a maker space. Okay. So that's kind of like
working together.
Same kind of, so we bring that same energy of, we should have multiple activities. And one of the moms is a teacher, so that she helps out in that aspect of being able to teach things. And so that the 3 of us are actually the teachers of beginner's method, so that the 3 moms learned how to solve, so we could teach it to all the beginners that we meet at these community events.
So now you teach the beginner method to the new, have you entered a competition yourself?
I have not. My son has been trying to get me to enter one, but I don't feel that my time is fast enough. And I told him I don't want to hold up the competition because you're all waiting for me to solve. But I've been inspired by a couple of moms. Like, we had a mom at one of our previous competitions. Her son was competing for the first time. She competed for the first time. At the time I was talking to her, she was dead last on the leaderboard. But I told her, you are at least brave enough to enter.
Brave enough to enter. And her cuber will remember, when I entered my first competition, so did my mother. And she was fine with being last. Maybe she wasn't, but you know what I'm trying to say.
She was okay. She was just there to support him. They had flown from Outer Island over here just for the competitions.
Okay, so even though you say, yes, you have a life and your cuber has a life, and you've got another child who's not a cuber, but you are doing so much.
It is like a full-time job, but we enjoy it. Sometimes it gets a little frustrating because there is a lot to do and a lot to get ready, and the time constraints and things like that. But even my husband said he's noticed at the end of the event or whatever we finish, he says, you always look so happy. He goes, you look really happy. And I said, I do feel happy because of the kids I met or the parents I met. And one story I remember is we were doing a meetup at the mall, and this mom came up to me and she said, my son has met his tribe. I felt so happy to be there. And so that I said, if we can do that and give the kids a place or a sense of community, a sense of place, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I've heard that before where the parent will say, my child, like, these are my people. I found
Right.
wow. I'm really amazed everything you've put in and everything you've done. This is
yeah, and I think the other part of it is because I guess we're moms and crafting is real big in Hawaii, so that we started adding a little bit more once we got the feel of what the competitions are like, so that we started putting a more Hawaii spin on things. One thing that I'm really proud of is that we just started making competition buttons, like pin back buttons, one button for every competition, so that it's only given out at that competition. And so that I've been able to contact local artists who do very authentic local art, and I'll ask them if I can use the artwork on the back of the button, and I credit them when we put together a button. So we said the artwork is by this person, but we make one unique button for every competition, so that we give those out only at that competition, so that you can track all the Hawaii competitions that you've been to. So we thought that would be a good, like, each button I feel is like a story, so that you remember where you were, like what PR you got at that competition, and you can and talk to other people about it, and you have that shared experience. We found that everybody wants their button now, and they look for it, so that, and we just make it by hand. We use our Cricut and our button stamper thing and make them by hand.
Yes, the Cricut I have heard. I don't have one,
right.
But
right.
boy, yes. So you've really personalized things. You've added the mom touch, the creator touch, the artist touch to it. They still wear the lanyards and with the name?
The delegates bring it so that they have a different lanyard each time. But locally, when we meet with just our kids for the meetup, so that we do have our lanyards, the idea of being that we eventually wanted to get lanyards that they could bring to the meetups, and then we just keep adding their buttons to the lanyards. But right now they're adding the buttons to their backpacks and cubing bags and things like that. That's been really good. We're proud of that fact, that item. And but I think you asked me earlier about how we get the information out.
Because you sound like a super organizer, but also a super connector of people and kids.
That's what my husband calls me, a connector. He says that's what I do, is I connect people to other people. But I initially started off with a Facebook group because that's where I was because of my age. But the younger moms in our group told me they're not on Facebook and that I needed to be on Instagram, because if they take pictures, they could tag the community. So that I had to learn how to use Instagram, start an Instagram page. There's other parents that are only on websites, so we had to start a website because some people only look there. I try to generate a newsletter about every month, but it's not happening. Okay. It's a little less frequent than it used to be. I think when I first started, it was monthly, and then not as often anymore, but the intention's there. I think if I can get everything together, then we have the newsletter. I contacted the newspaper, and they came down and they did a whole editorial story on Rubik's Cube making a comeback. And I think we were interviewed for a PBS special locally. They came to a competition and interviewed some of the kids.
So how did you reach out to them?
I just emailed them. You look it up on their websites, and it says if you have a story idea, submit it. So I did. And they called me back, and we just arranged a time and place for them to meet, and if we need to sign any releases and things like that. Like I tell my kids, I just shoot my shot and see what happens.
And then you've also created this crash course in cubing as a Google Doc, and it's so thorough. I'm going to have it linked in the show notes so anybody can look at it. How did this come about? It's a commitment.
It was almost like a brain dump. People kept asking me the same questions, and I said I should just write this down somewhere because I keep getting asked the same questions. And we try to tell people what the website is, but you can only retain so much information. And I said it's really hard at a community event for everybody to be looking up on their phones. And sometimes the Wi-Fi isn't great and you can't really look it up at that time. So that I thought, I'll just create all this information because I said, I just keep repeating myself. So I'm just going to do this brain dump and write it all down and edit as I go along. So that's what happened. And then it just got longer and longer because I'm a little obsessive, right?
Where you're at, especially, so it's great for the first few pages, great for beginner, right? It's more comprehensive than what I have in my episode on episode 2 on how to solve a Rubik's Cube. And then you keep going and you give people like information about terminology, notation. You're not going to learn notation at the beginning. Here you are. You've given so much information. It's like a mini encyclopedia.
Some of it I acquire from other people too. Sometimes we travel and I'll contact a cubing club wherever we are and I just pick people's brains and they recommend like some of the videos on there that other people have recommended to me to watch about cubing because I'll say, oh, I like this one. And they're like, you should watch this one. And I don't want to forget about it because I said it was actually a very good video. And so I just started adding it on there. And it's just tips that I've gotten from seasoned cubers and other people. And I find it useful. So that I just wanted to have it all in one place. That first competition, I said, are we allowed to put some identifying mark or something on the cube so that we can tell one kid's cube? And they said, oh, no, don't do that. And they said, it can only have one logo sticker and they have restrictions as to where that sticker can be depending on the cube. So we actually have looked into, we've asked a couple of maker spaces here if the kids can come in to design a logo sticker, and they have all the cutting machines and things like that. So that a couple of them have been willing, but I think they get busy with other things. So we haven't come back around to it. But that was one thing in the pipeline, was to have a workshop where the kids could design their own logo stickers for their own cubes. and so we could keep them separate.
So personalized pins and personalized cubes.
Yeah. So we do make stickers. So I've hired like a young artist and she made us I don't know if you know what a spam musubi is, but it's a local treat. So it's like a spam sushi because it has rice and seaweed and fried spam. And it's what all the kids here eat for school lunch or field trips. And anybody who comes here eats that. It's just the local kind of treat that all the kids eat. So that I asked her, can you just make it into a cube? And then we would make a sticker out of it. And so that's one of our signature stickers.
Wow. Okay. You need to send me a photo of this too and how it looks. Wow.
So we try to give stickers out, and most of them I'm just designing on some software template or something like that. But then that one I actually asked my friend's daughter to design for us.
Okay. We say all this, although I need to also note that for blind, you have to have a stickerless cube, right?
Right. You can't have that logo sticker on it. You have to remove the logo somehow.
So there's a lot of nuances when it comes. This is the 201 level for sure. Okay. So you've also said in your crash course, talk to other cubers in the community. Everyone is welcoming and friendly, even the famous cubers. You have one of those.
We have one. He lives on Big Island. He's great. He's really approachable, and he's really good with all the kids. They'll go up there go up to him for autographs, for pictures, and he's always willing. He's very gracious. He's very giving of his time. And
I was just going to say, a new parent might not know who we're talking about.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. So it's Maddie Hiroto Inaba. So he's, I think right now, number 6 in the world. I'm not sure. He goes up and down the leaderboard. So yeah, the first meetup we had where we're all trying to learn about cubing, I actually contacted him and asked him if he would do a Zoom session with our kids. And the kids all came up with questions, and we did a 30-minute Zoom call where the kids got to ask him anything they wanted. And I think after our Zoom session, some of the parents came up to me and they said, I looked him up and I didn't realize he was so famous.
Because when you don't know, you really don't know.
They didn't know. And I said, oh yeah, we were lucky that he talked to us. But My son and I actually went to U.S. Nationals
Minneapolis?
last year in Pittsburgh?
Okay.
We didn't go to Minneapolis. We went to Pittsburgh, and it was only the two of us from Hawaii besides Maddie. And so we actually created these Cubing Jedi T-shirts, and we called them the Maddie Hiroto Fan Club shirts. And we showed up to Pittsburgh to cheer him on.
What else do you suggest for a new parent?
I think for the parents to get involved with it. And I think me learning how to solve the cube, I appreciate more about how difficult it is. And my son sometimes watches my solves and he cringes. He watches my solve and he's like, why are you turning it so much?
Why did you pick them?
Yeah. But I think it really has helped. Like even some of the kids, when I meet in the community events, they'll call me out and they'll challenge me to a cube off. And they always beat me, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm usually finishing the first layer while they're finishing their whole solve. But I said, but just getting involved in that way. I think some of our parents, we learned the notation because we used to do the scramble. When we first started doing the scrimmages and practices, we thought the kids should all have the same scramble so that only a couple of us knew how to read notation. So we'd hover behind the one parent and then everybody had their cube and we'd mimic, turn this one, turn that one. But it ended up making the practices too long so that we're like, okay, we're just going to do hand scrambles now. This is taking
hand
too
scrambles.
long.
What is that?
Oh, you just pass it to your neighbor. They scramble it up for you randomly. It's not the same scramble.
Oh.
So that we just, to save time, because we sit in a circle. And so that we just say, pass it to your neighbor on the right. They scramble it, pass it back to you.
Okay.
And solve it because it goes by faster. Yes. If we have less kids and we have more the seasoned cubers, the kids that come who regularly, then we might use a same scramble. We'll just look it up on CS Timer or something and everybody scrambles their own cube and then we solve it. But if it's a big group, then we just have them pass it down and just scramble it and pass it back. Because we don't have, sometimes it's only 2 hours and they want to get through so many cubes.
So now that you've been so involved and you've experienced so many angles of the cubing life, what would be your wishes or hopes, dreams for the WCA?
I was thinking about that because I think there's a couple of things that occurred to me. One is I have 2 boys, and I said, but cubing is, in our area, majority boys. And I think when I've gone up to U.S. Nationals, I saw it's mostly boys. And so that I'd like to see more girls get involved. And so that sometimes I see girls who can solve a cube and I try to get them to come to a comp. I try to encourage them and I don't know how to get them to cross that threshold and be willing to come in. And so maybe that's where some of the crafty things come in, is that we're just hoping to draw them in somehow. I think that was one of the things I think for me is just trying to get it more inclusive of people, that it's right now just majority boys. I think the other thing is for WCA, I'd like to see a little bit more spectator-friendly events. I think recently they did have called the NA All-Stars, is the North America All-Stars, and the GAN Speedcubing competitions where they did more single elimination or double elimination brackets, or they did head-to-head solves. And I think it makes it more interesting for a spectator who's not involved in cubing, because we think about how to make, when it's all day at a competition, some of the parents don't know what they're looking at. Their grandparents will come, friends will come, and they're not exactly sure what they're looking at. And I think having certain things to make it more interesting to the masses, and I don't know what that is, but I just know you can notice, like when people are coming and we're there for 8 hours a day or something, that they're just something almost like watching a basketball game or something where it's a little bit more, you understand what's going on, or it's a little bit spectator friendly.
Yeah, like an invitational.
Yeah, even if it's for fun.
Wow. Yulee, thank you so much for your time and all this information. I really have to say, the Hawaiian community, you are so blessed to have Yulee and the other moms helping with so much and bringing so much creativity and care and thought into everything cubing. Mahalo. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you, Yulee, for your time and for sharing all the ways you've built community in Hawaii for the cubers. I will have in the show notes of this episode links to her origami puzzle, the 3D printed robot, her pins, her crash course in cubing, as well as the Hawaiian Cubing Community's Instagram, Facebook, and Discord.
It's now time for your Cube News.
In our Cube News today, I'm actually going to start with a personal note because here in BC, Canada, 2 other moms in BC and I have created and registered a nonprofit for cubing in BC. We will be working on strengthening cube clubs in schools as well as starting cube clubs in schools. We will also be looking at ways to support our advanced cubers here in BC. As I was editing Yulee's episode, I realized it probably doesn't hurt to ask if anyone has some supplies that they want to donate. So if you are in the Pacific Northwest and you have cardstock, a paper cutter, a Cricut, a spiral binding machine, or sign holders that are tabletop or ground level, if you have any of these items that you would like to donate to CubingBC, that would help us a lot as we get started. So far, I've been able to get a printer and some office supplies from my Facebook Neighborhood by Nothing group. These are items that people in my neighborhood do not have use for anymore, so they post them for anyone who would like them to pick it up from their house for free. If you have any items that I haven't mentioned, but you think they would be helpful or useful for the CubingBC nonprofit, please send me an email, cubemomofficial@gmail.com. That's cubemomofficial@gmail.com. Thank you so much. I have a guest for part of Cube News today, and this is also great if you have not been to a competition yet or you haven't stayed till the end of a competition. We recently had a 2-day competition in Vancouver at St. George's School. This was on October 19th and 20th, organized by Chen and Winston Chow, with the delegates Heewon Hwang, Kevin Matthews, and Vianne Chang. For the sake of time, I have edited out the applause, mostly. I was also a bit slow to get my recording equipment ready, so I missed her announcing the first event. So the first podium names she's announcing are for the 3x3 blindfolded event. Here are those podium finishers announced by Chen.
In third place is Mahir Rai with a best result of 54.97. In second place is Kevin Matthews with a best result of 37.01. And in first place is Jace Lee with a best result of 17.48, who is not here. For Cube, in third place is Ben Wessels with an average of 4.42. In second place is Ron Giorama with an average of 3.54. And in first place is Kevin Lay with an average of 3.11. For one-handed, in third place is Ethan Rusnak with an average of 15.57. In second place is Kenny Zhang with an average of 15.10. And in first place is Mahir Rai with an average of 13.64. For Pyraminx, in third place is Jose Miguel Valdez Rodriguez with an average of 2.55. And in second place is Mahir Rai with a Washington State record average of 2.00. And in first place is Jacob Kotai with a Canadian national record average of 1.70. For Clock, in third place is Alex Muscaboda with an average of 4.80. In second place is Ron Giorama with an average of 4.41. And in first place is Dilshan Sidhu with an average of 3.62. For 2x2, in third place is Kevin Lay with an average of 2.28. In second place is Ron Giorama with an average of 1.79. And in first place is Amir Saifi with an average of 1.57. Now on to the main event 3x3. In third place is Kenny Zhang with an average of 7.66. In second place is Luke Jang-Koyak with an average of 7.62. And in first place is Brian Sun with an average of 7.49.
Congratulations to everyone that Ash announced, as well as all the competitors. I think we will remember that competition as one with very rainy weather. I think it was a 48-hour stretch of nonstop rain. This weekend, if you are not attending a comp, you could tune in to the live stream of the Asian Championships. They are November 1st to 4th in Malaysia. And next weekend, we can all watch the registration for Phase 1 for the World Championships. That feels like an event in itself, just watching the registration names come in. Phase 1 for the Rubik's World Championships 2025 starts on November 8th, 2024. I'm also happy to share something I haven't shared on the podcast yet, and that is that the next Canadian Championships, so that's Canadian Nats, will be taking place in the summer of 2025. It will be after Worlds. The date and location are still to be announced, but stay tuned for an announcement on the 2025 Canadian Championships. Thank you for joining me today. The 2 ways to hear about new episodes of Speedcubing 101 are to either subscribe to the podcast where you are listening to it now, or follow me on Instagram at CubeMomOfficial because I post announcements of new episodes there. If you have any questions, suggestions, or corrections, do reach out. CubeMomOfficial@gmail.com is my email. That's CubeMomOfficial@gmail.com. Be sure to join me in episode 13, where I will share my interview with Senior Delegate of Canada and the United States, Matthew Dickman. He's also one of the organizers for Worlds 2025. But until then, happy cubing and go Cubers go.